keeping you up to date with what's happening in the Hunter. Newcastle in the Morning with Tracy Mack, only on Newcastle Live Radio.
May 5, which is tomorrow, is 3 years since the Newcastle Jets played in front of nearly 30,000 fans at a home grand final. How we have fallen from grace since then. Joining me now is Fox Sports expert and former Newcastle Breaker. Good morning, Andy Harper. How are you?
Tracy, I'm well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. You don't get that very often these days, do you? Former Newcastle Breaker?
No. I get a lot of other adjectives put next to my name, but not often that. Thank you for the reminder.
Well, you are. You're a Novocastrian. You're an adopted Novocastrian, aren't you?
Well, that's very kind of you to say so. And if I'd love to be considered that. I do actually live further north of Newcastle, but Newcastle is certainly where my heart lies.
Absolutely. Which is why what is going on at the Newcastle Jets at the moment is so heartbreaking to you.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people. Of course, when any team in any sport, in any league is struggling, then comment is attracted. It's never welcomed, which is totally understandable, but it's the business that we're in. But, you know, whilst the focus of some of my commentary, I guess, has been taken in the immediate sense with the state of the team, and of course that was the catalyst. I know part of the discussion I'm trying to get going here, or is maybe being excited, is the bigger picture of football in Newcastle. Of course, there are immediate issues around the club because of the changeover in ownership, and A-League investors have come in to secure the future of the Jets. And might I say that I'm part of the chorus of thanks for that taking place. And so whilst there are acute issues around the team's performance at the moment, in my opinion, actually part of my interest, a significant part of my interest, is the long-term issues around this club. And I might say, Tracy, sport in Newcastle. You know, the Jets are one thing. The Knights, the big boys in town, have got a secure financial future now. But I also wonder why they continue to struggle perennially. So these are big issues which are being generated out of here. The professional end of the sport is the visible retail end, but the issues around that underpin football in Newcastle and the Hunter and northern New South Wales are all contributing factors, and these are discussions that need to be had. Of course, the Jets hierarchy are the people who hear it loudest and respond most emotionally, most rationally, and most pointedly. But these go to the public authorities in our area as well, the local governments, the state governments, about what sort of resourcing they're providing to underpin these very important community assets.
And they really are community assets. And as you say, you know, there used to be the old saying that if the Knights won, the Newcastle Herald sales went through the roof. If they didn't win, they didn't. Everyone loves a winner, and I've had this conversation with many people, you know, with Adam O'Brien, with Craig Deans. You know, people don't mind if you lose by the skin of your teeth if you put in a tough performance. Mate, at the moment, we are not seeing that from either of our national sides, and I agree with you. There is a psyche issue there.
Yeah, and I don't look. Again, mine are just observations. I'm not presuming to tell people I've got views on things, but people are entitled to try and work through the challenges as they've been employed to do and as they see fit. And always happy to have that discussion. But there comes a time, Tracy, as well, where the fans need their emotions expressed somehow. Because without fans, we don't have businesses in this game. And without people actually caring about what happens on the field with their team, there is no business to propagate. And so, you know, this is not why I said, in fact, I didn't set out to say anything. I was invited onto a talk show and was asked a question, and out it came.
That's unusual for you, Andy.
That is unusual for me, I know. It's unusual to be invited places. It's unusual for me to say what I think. And but these are deeply held emotions that people supporting Newcastle sport, and in our case the Jets, feel. Where are the fans to go apart from being asked to turn up and support, which they'll do. And if we need them and want them to come in bigger numbers, then we have to accept the care factor. In fact, we have to encourage the care factor, because if people don't care, there's no business.
And look, that's a conversation that I had with Shane Matisky probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago. You know, my question to Shane was, the Newcastle Jets are owned by a group of other A-League owners. You know, is it a conflict of interest? You know, is it? I know from a financial perspective, it's in Mr. Lederer's best interest to support this club. But if it's going to be a Western Sydney Wanderers winning over a Newcastle Jets, or there's a marquee player coming, it's going to go the Western Sydney Wanderers before it comes to the Newcastle Jets. You know, there are some issues there, Andy, that I don't think we're talking about loud enough.
No, look, what you've expressed there, they're very real difficulties that the ownership quartet have to confront. On a personal view, I accept that exactly what you say is a difficult thing to manage, and it's a question of how long this process is going to take for the 4 owners to feel comfortable that the business is stabilised and there's a viable alternative. I certainly support that process, because I believe deeply in football's history in the area, in football's present in the area, most importantly, Tracy, in football's future. And so what is taking place now is utterly necessary, and I support them completely. And to the extent that people agree with me, I express my gratitude. There are difficulties that come with that. I mean, one can't pick and choose in this case, and I think we need to. I'm prepared to certainly give the benefit of the doubt that these hot button issues, short term, like perceived conflicts of interest, are there. They're aware of them, I'm imagining, and they're prepared to deal with them as they come up from time to time. My focus is the bigger picture, in getting this right so that this can be sustainable, that the locals can respond and contribute and feel that it's theirs, and that the long-term issues of sustainability are addressed. And more importantly, Tracy, actually, the utter failure of the Jets over 16 years now, not the current group, they're the latest custodians, over 16 years to actually graduate kids out of the system, out of the local NPL, into Newcastle Jets players. There's been a succession of administrations and probably coaches that have just closed the door on that for whatever reason. I don't know, but it's self-defeating and it has to change. This probably is the focus of my emotion at the moment, because I'm certainly sympathetic to the short-term difficulties. Notwithstanding that, a team bottom of the table can't not expect some questions to be asked.
Absolutely, without doubt. And look, I was going to mention that, you know, you and I have been through every single one of those 16 years of custodians. You know, we had Con, we had Mr. Tinkler, we had Martin Lee, and now we've got this group. You know, they've all started with a blaze of glory, Andy. You'll remember the LA Galaxy that were brought out here. You know,
yes.
We finally thought we had some sustainability. But the relationship between the peak body and Northern New South Wales has always been very political. Now, I can't remember, and you'll be able to tell me better, I can't remember a local junior other than Ben Kantorowski in recent history who's actually made it.
I'd like, your purview is obviously for Newcastle listenership, but Angus Thurgate is a local product.
Of course he is. He's not in my side, though.
Beg pardon?
He's not playing in our side at the moment, though, is he?
Yeah, Thurgate.
I thought he was injured.
Oh, well, I don't think he's injured. He might, if he is, it's come out of the weekend.
I was going to say, if he is, there's the goss, but yeah.
Yeah, but the point is, I mean, one swallow doesn't make a summer.
No.
I've spoken with David Eland over years about this. He doesn't hide from the fact. And so whatever's going on or not going on needs urgent, radical, immediate attention. You look at what Adelaide are churning out, but it doesn't happen overnight. The points I've been making publicly is to compare Adelaide with Newcastle. Not a fair comparison city by city in general terms. Adelaide's 2 and a bit times the size of Newcastle. But as far as player participation is concerned, it's a very stark comparison and a relevant one. But Adelaide's, the flood of Adelaide players through their own team and then out into the A-League didn't happen overnight. I don't expect immediate return on this discussion, but seriously, Newcastle kids coming through and Northern New South Wales kids coming through need to be rewarded, need to believe they have a chance to play for their flagship team. I mean, to me, it's so obvious it shouldn't even need stating. But the numbers of kids over 16 years, again, let's open the lens on this beyond the immediate difficulties of the current team, which attract their own commentary. But some of the underpinning issues and players graduating out of the system into being Jets players at A-League level surely need serious review. This has been going on too long for it not to be a major issue, and for the team to be successful into the future, I believe a key indicator of that is how many locals are actually exciting their families and friends and extended network because they're part of that system. And we've both now mentioned, I just want to get this in before I forget, we've both used the word custodianship, and it was first Ange Postecoglou, our great former Socceroos coach, now doing well in Japan, who in his book, when I was discussing his book with him, made this point that even though these clubs are privately owned, and even though those owners are utterly entitled in a system that's been developed to leverage a club and make a profit out of it if they can, everyone respects that. I certainly do. And I wish them all the best and whatever help we can generate in these discussions to get them to leverage a profit out of their activity, then fantastic. But if the view at the same time, and this is what Ange got me going on this, got me thinking about this, even in a capitalist, privatised situation like this, the view of the owner around any club, A-League, any sort of sports franchise which is privately owned, has to be one of custodianship. Yes, you own the licence. Yes, you have the right to profiteer out of that. But your view has to be, I'm holding this for the people.
Correct.
Even if it changes the way you do your business and you're trying to make that profit which people respect, your view, your communication, your attitude, everything about your practice needs to be one of custodianship. We're holding this until the next person can make it better than I can. And if that view can pervade everything, in our sport, soccer, football, particularly through a privatised professional model, then I think more profit can be made if people can be brought into the whole journey. If you don't have fans, you don't have a business, and if people don't care, your business is stuffed.
Absolutely, and you've only got to have a look at the Green Bay Packer model for that. You know, they were on their knees, and the community model came about. And, you know, I mean, I know we've also discussed this one. You know, when Mr. Tinkler threw back his licence, there was a group that I was a part of that we were working towards a community model. Now, the FFA, in their wisdom, decided to give him back the licence. You know, I don't know what the answer is, Andy, but it is custodians. We are the custodians, you know, at the end of the day of this brand, and we do need to call people to account for it. I am concerned, and I do feel sorry for Craig Deans. He hasn't got a great deal of money. He hasn't been able to get, any star talent. What he has done with what he's got is okay, but I agree with you. We need some locals being brought through, and we need some marquee players, or at least some decent players.
Well, you know, that goes from time to time. I think they are decent players, though. This is you know, Craig is in a difficult set of circumstances, and you know, it doesn't give me any pleasure at all that a guy like Craig, who's served so diligently, directly or indirectly, is getting whacked about this. But that's a part of the sport as well. I mean, he has shown at times how capable he is with the handover phases, and then when he had this team. And so, you know, I'm sure his employers are asking him what's going on. They know what's going on behind the scenes. But we on the outside just are looking at what we're looking at, and any team that's struggling like this is going to attract commentary. So I wish Craig Deans weren't in this situation as well. But that's the fact. I mean, the fans haven't put the team in this position.
No.
The extent to which Craig has is for employers and the club to sort out, but it's the fans who have to deal with the fallout, and it's the fans whom we need to care, and it's the fans who will respond to whatever messages are given to them. But as I said to you, Tracy, that's the immediate issue. This is the newspaper chat issue, which is a very important one. But bigger than this, bigger than the current state of the team are the systems that underpin football in this area, and the levels of support that come from public authorities like the local councils around the place, like the state government, like the federal government. I mean, whilst Craig and the team cop whatever flack they cop from coming last in the league at the moment, it's our elected authorities can sit there comfortably and cushioned from the criticism, the heavy criticism that is due those organisations. I'd still like to know how the sport of soccer, which keeps more kids and families connected than any other sport in the area, in the country, can be expected to deliver those services without commensurate support from the public authorities. And I'm talking about playing facilities. You know, we live in a country, the most densely populated continent on the planet outside of Antarctica probably. People can correct me, but they'll get my drift. The most underpopulated continent on the planet, yet we still don't have space for facilities, yet we still don't have fields for kids to play in, yet we still have clubs working hand over fist with people flipping sausages on barbecues on weekends to try and pay their way with not enough fields for kids to play football and for teams to be coached. So whilst, you know, it's easy for us and reactionary of us in some senses, me included, to make commentary about the Newcastle Jets team's performance, and that those comments do need to be made. There's a much bigger picture here, a much bigger picture of neglect. And there's a number of authorities around the place who have to wear that cap because it's utterly unconscionable in a modern Australia, in a modern developed economy, in a modern wealthy country with all this space available, that kids don't have space to play soccer without ruining grounds.
Absolutely. Or sharing them with cricket.
Utterly ridiculous. It's utterly neglectful, and it's totally negligent in my opinion. And I don't know what it's going to take for the public authorities to change this.
Neither do I, Andy. And maybe you need to get into Parliament, my friend.
Well, I'm not quite sure how welcome that would be. But the fact of the matter is, we know the links between physical activity and physical and mental health. We know it. Like, we're not having to reinvent this. So what sort of country has a bag of knowledge in one hand and then with its other hand does nothing with it? What sort of modern, sophisticated, so-called developed society does that? And public authorities that are responsible for delivering on the knowledge we have, yet can sit there and do nothing with that knowledge. I find it inexplicable.
I agree with you completely, and you do have the voice to be able to say that and to get that out to the masses. So congratulations. Thank you so much for that. I will vote for you if you do go for Parliament. I can tell you that much.
All right, Trace, good on you.
Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks, Andy. That is Andy Harper from Fox Sports, and as I said at the outset, former breaker. You're with Tracy Mack here on Newcastle Live Radio.
To keep up to date on everything happening in Newcastle and the Hunter, it's Newcastle in the Morning with Tracy Mack. 9 a.m. to midday, Monday to Friday, right here on Newcastle Live Radio.